Oh, fuck. Oh, we're live? Shit.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches. I am back as your host, Coach Steve, back in the building here. And of course, we have our two amazing other coaches here. Coach Jibbs, what is going on, brother?
What up? What up? I'm good, brother.
You feel good about being back in the analyst chair?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of pressure in that big seat.
Yeah, big pressure. And of course, we got Coach John. What's going on, Coach John?
Nothing much, boys. Just hanging out. Another beautiful Monday.
Love to hear that. All right. So, like I said, we're slowly and surely getting back into some 2023 redraft season talk, but we're not there yet. We're getting pretty close, though. We have one more episode, which we got today. We're going to talk about year two players, basically the 2022 rookie draft players who were drafted last year. And we're going to take a look back at what they kind of did last year and what we could expect out of them moving forward for Dynasty and whether or not we might want to get them on our teams now for the 2023 season. So we're going to start with that. Again, news-wise, there's nothing really crazy going on at the moment. Green Bay is going to host the 2025 NFL Draft. I think the 49ers are hosting the 2027 Super Bowl. So there's some cool things like that. But again, there's nothing really crazy. You know, rookies are getting hyped up in mini camp right now. But besides that, it's really not much that we want to put our heads on just yet. But we're going to talk about some players from last year and kind of go from there. So let's start at the top here. So of the last year's class of actual relevant players, we have Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers first round, had a pretty decent season overall, has a lot of weapons, been given more offensive line help. Sam Howell got to play the last game of 2023 season. He was a fifth round pick for the Washington Commanders. He looks like he's being trusted as the starter moving forward in 2023. Brock Purdy, we all know about him and his magic run with the 49ers last year and how great he was for fantasy at times. And again, it seems like it's his job to lose, even though he came off a pretty significant injury. And then, of course, Desmond Ridder, who started the last 4 or 5 games of the 23 season and looks like to be the main starter for the Atlanta Falcons heading into 2023 with a lot of new, powerful, big pieces in that offense here now. And I'll let you guys start. You know, who do you guys trust the most moving forward out of these 4 quarterbacks?
Jibbs?
Oh, I get to go first.
I'll let you go
like
first.
A guest today. Well, in Dynasty, it's I think it's Kenny Pickett that I would trust the most, but I'll give my analysis for Brock Purdy for the quarterback that I'll probably trust out of all of them because he literally has the pelts. He went to the MC Championship last year. He pretty much threw more touchdowns than all of them combined. If you look at his stats, so one touchdown, Kenny Pickett ain't cutting it. But obviously, it's like Coach Steve said, it's his job to lose. That offense, he has the best offense out of all those people too. So like, if there's one quarterback all time a hit shoot, it would be Brock Purdy. But you also should watch out for Kenny Pickett in the dynasty community because like the Steelers upgraded their offensive line. They're doing some reassurance. They got him another receiver. Like I think that kind of stabilizes him probably to have a step forward next year. Najee Harris probably be on a better foot too and be healthy. So I think Kenny Pickett could be a cheap option that dynasty owners, superflex people could like look into because like I know like if Kenny Pickett's on one of my rosters, like I don't want to give him up, but like he's not going to fetch like a high price either.
All right. Coach John, how do you feel about this question? Who do you trust the most out of this group here?
So it's funny that you use the word trust, which changes sort of my answer. And who do I trust the most? I'm kind of with Jibbs where I probably trust Kenny Pickett. I trust Kenny Pickett the most. He has the draft capital. They upgraded the offensive line. He has decent weapons. You know, he is probably the one who, you know, outside of the Cinderella story of Brock Purdy, he's probably the one who's going to see out his entire rookie contract, probably get this 5th-year extension, all that. So for Dynasty, that's who I trust the most. But if I was to really push my chips on someone right now, I might take the shot at Desmond Ridder. I like the fact that he's got a ton of weapons. They're really going to, they're trying to just win the games like Detroit did last year. They're going to win or try and score 40 points and see if their defense can make any sort of stop. And, they're going to give him a lot of free reign. He also, the other thing, you got to look back at Desmond Ridder as a prospect. He ran the ball almost 120, 130 times a season. Like has the ability to rush as well. And then his senior year threw for 3,400 yards and 30 touchdowns. So, I mean, he can play, man. I have a feeling that he has, to me, a lot of upside, and still in Superflex and Dynasty formats, he's not totally the new hotness yet. So that's probably who I'm betting on. That's who I would try and acquire, but who I have the most trust in is probably Kenny Pickett.
I like both of your answers overall. I'm probably going to go with Sam Howell. Honestly, I'm a big Sam Howell believer. Obviously, he was my rated number 1 quarterback in last year's draft. Again, the NFL didn't show it off that way. Obviously, he landed later in the 5th round, but it seems like the Commanders are giving him the most opportunity to be successful there in Washington. They have Eric Bieniemy as the new offensive coordinator now. We see what he was able to do in parts with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs and how to make that offense be elite. He has the same amount of weapons as pretty much all these guys. I mean, Terry McLaurin, you have Jahan Dotson, you have Curtis Samuel, you have a pretty decent, strong run game. The O-line isn't bad at all. They invested a lot in the O-line and defense. So in terms of trustability, he was my favorite talent coming out of this draft here. So as long as he can beat out Jacoby Brissett, which I think he can, because I don't think Jacoby Brissett is anything to compete about, but he should have he has my trust. Honestly, I think he ends up doing the best out of this bunch moving forward. I think will surprise a lot of people in 23. So he is in terms of dynasty and redraft, he's probably my most trusted quarterback right now. All right. So on the flip side, who is your least trusted quarterback moving forward?
Oh man, Gibbs, I'll let you go again.
I don't know. I'll probably be Sam Howell to me. Because the Commanders are always in the news of trying to tampering with Andrew Luck. They're always on the precipice of being the joke of not getting the quarterback. Sure, Sam Howell is they're going to be probably their presumed starter this year, but there's just been so many years of them trying to get their guy. So I don't see him having the job for the foreseeable future, but it's his right to own. And like John said before, I do like the Falcons. They have Bijan, the offensive stack. They actually improved their defense in free agency. So I think they'll be a better team. And that probably would be easier game management for Ridder. He doesn't have to go out and get 30 points. I think he could probably get a nice little 24 and call it a day, And so I'll take Sam Howell. And yeah. They got all the runners and they got the defense too in Washington. So
Sam Howell can run.
Game management.
This one was kind of hard for me because, I want to say Sam Howell. He's just kind of the easy, low-hanging fruit. But there is this weird feeling I have about Brock Purdy. I love the story of Brock Purdy. I love that he was this last pick in the draft. I love everything about it. It's awesome. He took him to the NFC Championship, played great. Yeah, he's having Tommy John surgery, which is no joke. He's going up against Trey Lance, who, say what you want about Trey Lance. He's got skills that Brock Purdy just doesn't have. So, they traded 1 million picks and moved up in the draft to draft Trey Lance. In my opinion, for them to just throw that away after a year and a half or 2 years of injury-riddled stuff and whatever, I don't know. That seems not smart on Shanahan's part. So, I think that, again, I don't know San Fran, not in their front office, but, I bet if they're really asking each other these decisions, they know that Brock Purdy is limited. He's good, but he's a limited quarterback. The upside of Trey Lance is enormous. So, there's no saying that, Brock Purdy is locked on this roster for the next 4 years. Yeah, he's there. He could be good, but he could be traded. He could be gone. He could be traded to, Commanders next year. Like, who knows? Like, it could be a million things. So I think Sam Howell will have the job this year for sure. I think Brock Purdy probably has the job, but he's got an uphill climb. He's got a little bit of a battle. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Brock Purdy is probably who I trust the least.
I like that. I'm probably right there with you. I want to say Kenny Pickett, but in terms of draft capital, he's going to probably see an opportunity more likely than Brock Purdy is because he was a 7th round pick. Yeah, there's nothing against Brock Purdy. He did fantastic at the end of last year, obviously, all the way through the playoffs. Really good. But the 49ers have a situation where Trey Lance is on that team still, which I think Trey Lance, in a general sense, is a far better talent than Brock Purdy is. Brock Purdy might fit the system better, which could be good for the 49ers, obviously. But when you have a player on your team that you obviously didn't trade during the NFL draft, there's a situation there where you might have to play him. He could give you a better opportunity to win games overall because of what he's able to do with his legs, what he's able to do with his passing. And that could be good for us in fantasy, where Brock Purdy, you have him on your team you're excited about because it seemed like the coaching staff trusts him. It's a really tough injury to come back from. And again, if he slips up early on, none of these other guys have a former first round pick behind them waiting to go in. Mm-hmm. So at some point, like, if Brock struggles, it's like, all right, let's see what Trey Lance can do. Then they spent the money on him, they spent the draft capital. He could end up being in there pretty early. So for me, trustability, it's not really Brock Purdy right now. Oh, it is Brock Purdy. Now quickly, just rank these 4 quarterbacks.
So I didn't know how to do this, if we wanted to do it by a dynasty format, by a redraft format, how we want to do this. But I would say
dynasty. I would say dynasty
okay.
Because you're not taking most of these guys in a single quarterback league and your redraft leagues this year.
Okay.
So.
Right. Okay. Then I would switch my order a little. I'll do Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Brock Purdy. That's how I would rank them for dynasty.
I'll do the same.
Okay. Probably right now I have Howell, Ridder, Pickett, Purdy.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, this class definitely wasn't obviously the best class over the last few years compared to a lot of these other classes. But this is a make or break season probably for all 4 of these quarterbacks if they do get an opportunity all to start in 23. So, all right, moving over to the first half of running backs. These are the guys who probably were the most fantasy relevant. I'm pretty sure. Hold on, let me just see before I say that. All of them were the most fantasy relevant and likely are keeping their starting job or at least have the opportunity to be the starter, actually. Breece Hall, obviously, we know he was fantastic out of the gate. Fortunate injury that kind of screwed him. Kenneth Walker, also really good fantasy season, but we also know that he's got a rookie back there now. They took in the 2nd round, Seattle. James Cook, obviously, was a 3rd round pick last year. And it looks like he has a strong opportunity to take the starting job away from Damian Harris and Nyheim Hines, obviously. Damian Pierce came on strong early on in the 22 season, but obviously kind of faded as the season went on, and then he got hurt himself. He has Devin Singletary there to worry about, but it seems like he is the main guy. Brian Robinson, we know his story and how that worked out, but it seems like the Commanders really do love him. But it seems like he is the 1A in that offense. And Isaiah Pacheco obviously just continued to prove many people wrong, being a 7th round pick and performing pretty well for a 7th round pick last year. And it looks like at the moment he is the starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. So of these guys here, who are you trusting the most? And again, we can keep this to kind of dynasty, but if you want to throw in your 23 season too, you can.
Sure. So I think, if we're doing, who am I trusting in 2023 is Ken Walker. Who am I trusting in dynasty is probably Breece Hall. But I still think, the Zach Charbonnet landing spot stings and it hurts for sure. But I think it is, people are kind of blowing it way out of proportion. Kenneth Walker's not dead. Kenneth Walker's not gone. I mean, he's still going to see 65% of the carries, and that's enough. That's plenty. There's no one really that's 280, 300 carries in the NFL anymore. I mean, he's probably 250, no less than that. And that's great. And in an offense that we think is going to be really good, they got JSN now. They're going to be awesome. He's going to be in tons of scoring opportunities. We saw him have breakaway speed. So I don't know why everyone is so taken aback by Ken Walker, and at least in 2023. And, again, like the NFL has changed. It's not like there's teams go with one running back anymore. I mean, we've seen multiple running backs be productive, have big games. You know, you can go as far back as Kamara and Mark Ingram, both top 12 guys. I mean, it can happen. It's rare. It definitely limits the upside, but I trust Kenneth Walker, you know, not coming off injury. So that's the check up above Breece Hall. And then he's got more upside than kind of everyone else on the list. So I picked Ken Walker as whom I'm trusting the most in 2023.
Okay, Coach Gibbs.
It's Breece Hall for me, and even with the ACL injury, I'll take my time. I'll find me some scrub running backs and fill in the holes as the season goes on. But like, I would imagine, like, obviously he's gonna have to progress and get like NFL shape, and he's not gonna have like that rock star like 4-week stretch before his injury in 2022. But like, if you think like if he could come back, I don't know, like if he starts getting really good game time, week 6, and then like the second half of the season, I would expect the Jets offense to be a well-oiled machine by then. And like, they have a tough division, so it's not like they're going to be like walking into the playoffs. So you're going to be getting some good Breece Hall games or good Jet offense games in the fantasy playoffs. Although I do believe I saw like their schedule kind of sucks, but like regardless, I think Breece Hall is in league in his own on this list respectively, and he's a guy I trust the most off on this list based off your wording of your question.
No, I like that. You guys picked some big picks there. Yeah, Breece Hall is likely still my most trusted dynasty player right now. He's definitely someone that the early season could be a little cloudy, but long term, he is a talent that we saw out on that field, and he's going to make things happen. He'll get back to his form at some point here. It might take a little bit longer than we all want, but long term, you want to have Breece Hall on your team, and that's when you can find your value about getting him now if people are sketched out by his situation. But probably my most trusted in 23, and it's going to sound a little crazy, but it's Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco, compared to all these other guys, pretty much has the starting job and not much competition behind him. Jared McKinnon supposedly came back, but I don't think it's official. I think they won him back, but it's not done deal. But if you saw at the second half of last year, he was getting double-digit carries on the ground here. He played the Super Bowl with a broken hand and played well enough against that stout Eagles defense. Sorry, Gibbs. But he's going to have opportunity for scoring. He's going to run the ball enough where he's not going to see the 300 carry season out of him, but he could get 225 and maybe 30 catches, and you're getting him whatever round you get him right now. I don't think he's going in the top 4 round, but he's someone that I think will be able to be sustainable through an entire season and be consistent enough for us. Where some of these other guys, they might have more upside, but their floor game could be really bad, and their situations could completely flop over the season. Where I think Pacheco has that early down work lined up, and he has opportunity to catch the ball as well.
So it's funny. I had a little asterisk next to Isaiah Pacheco as well, and I love him. I think he's great. He dodged a bullet in the draft. He's in an awesome offense. You know, he did everything he did with 31% snap share. So to me, that's a good sign because he can do a lot with a little bit of work. And then I also think they're going to give him more work next season. So I like Isaiah Pacheco. My only fear is the typical, late round running back, like how easily they get replaced in dynasty. So that's my only fear with Isaiah Pacheco. I think 23 is going to be an awesome season.
Right.
And if you want to trade for him and you need an RB2 with upside, like Pacheco could be awesome. The problem is every offseason, you're going to have this fear of like, is he getting replaced? Is he going to, who are they bringing in? And it's like, reminds me similar to Phillip Lindsay and players like that. Good players, great, awesome, but it's hard to really establish a long-term role when you're a 7th round pick.
100%. Completely agree. All right, let's talk about people we don't trust. And obviously give us your dynasty and your quick 23 take on that, obviously. So who do you guys don't trust out of this group here?
Oh man, this one. So I went back and forth between James Cook and Brian Robinson. And I think I'm going to land on Brian Robinson just because of offensive prowess and scoring opportunity and that whole situation. But look, Damian Pierce. What's his name why can't I think of it? Patriots just signed with the Bills.
Harris.
Damian Harris. Thank you.
Yeah.
Damian Harris is going to get a lot of goal line work. He's no joke. Like, he's a good running back, solid downhill runner. And James Cook's going to kind of be in a, more of that like electric to their thunder kind of thing. And he's good at ripping off big plays. He's good at making catches. But I think, like you said, Coach Steve, I don't know how big his upside is going to be. I don't know if he's ever really going to be the number one guy in an offense. I just don't think he is. I love James Cook. I'm a big fan of him, but I'm kind of losing faith that they're really going to lean into him. But I just think that there is enough offensive opportunities and enough offensive scoring that I think I'd rather have James Cook than Brian Robinson. But they're close. They're close to me. I don't know if I'd like, both are probably like break glass in case of emergency type running backs, maybe your flex type of thing. Like, but you're not like, I don't have either one locked into my lineup every week, where I might with the other four. Like, you could make a case for Hall, Walker, Pierce, and Pacheco as being like, yeah, they're probably in your lineup every week. James Cook, Brian Robinson, I don't know.
Coach Shibbs?
I don't know. My answer wasn't really geared for Dynasty.
You can do it towards a redraft. It's not a big deal.
Dude, James Cook scared the shit out of me.
Well, that's easy.
So, just like what John pointed out, like his rushing share with Singletary wasn't that great. Like, he did good for what he had, but like now they have Damien Harris. Like, he could take all the red zone work, and like the only thing James Cook has to like lay his hat on, yeah, sure, he could get like more rushing carries, but I don't think he's going to be like 150 attempt running back. And like the receptions that Devin Singletary hypothetically are leaving the offense could get like sucked up by the, say, like Khalil Shakir or Dalton Kincaid and the other tight ends. So like it's just looking pretty sketchy for me. So like redraft 2023, I'm not really in on them, and I'll say Damian Pierce too, because I feel like the Texans won't be good. They'll be getting a running back next year.
Yeah,
it's so funny. I actually like Damian Pierce. I'm like, because he dodged a bullet again in the draft. He's got a little bit of draft capital. CJ Stroud, could provide a big boost to this offense. I don't know. I don't hate Damian Pierce for 2023. I don't hate it, but I could see why you are anxious with a rookie quarterback. I could see that. And it's the Texans. It's the Texans. They love to stink. So, I get your trepidation.
Yeah. So where I stand is, for 23, to me, I am concerned about Damian Pierce. And I guess I'm using it more towards where you're probably going to end up drafting him slightly. Because what we saw last year is that he got the workload. He got everything. And he got those little baby targets where he went 1 yard and caught a ball and did it like 5 or 6 games where he had 6 or 7 receptions and for like 7 yards.
Yeah.
And he had no one last year to deal with. And you saw as the season went on, his yards per carry kind of fell. And people were like, why'd they use Damian Pierce more in Florida? Why'd they give him more workload? Why didn't they give him more workload? It could have been a reason why he just can't handle a heavy workload that for an entire 17-game season. So you give him half that and let him be efficient with that. And I think I think Devin Singletary being there is an underrated move because he is a veteran running back and this team wants to win games. They don't want to tank. I can tell you, DeMarco Murray don't want to tank. He wants to win games for this Houston team, and he's going to do as much things as possible. And if it comes down to putting the veteran in and having him be a better pass protector, having him in on important downs, 2-minute warning, 2-minute drills, things like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Again, he's not tied to Damian Pierce. He did bring in Devin Singletary to his team because he's a veteran player on that team that will be good. So, for 23, there's concern there. Kyle, Rashard White will get on there at the next listing here. I couldn't find everyone behind him. So I couldn't get everyone on this list. Plus, these are players that were drafted. They had the best fantasy season last year. But Rashard White is coming.
These players in redraft and in dynasty startups will have high draft capital. All of these guys. So
Rashard White is coming. Don't worry.
It's important.
He's on the next list here. But yeah, so Damian Pierce definitely scares me for 23. As terms of long term, it's kind of Brian Robinson. I don't want to give Brian Robinson a pass of last year because obviously I really liked him, but obviously he had his situation and obviously didn't perform as well on the fantasy season and on the field for us as we wanted him to. And if the Commanders have another bad season and they say they want to clean house, they're going to have a new owner possibly by the time next year comes, no team's going to be tied to Brian Robinson. And to me, that's a bit of a concern where they might want to go bring out their own guys in, and then Robinson doesn't get that early down work that we all thought he could, or heavy workload in an offense. So long term, he could end up on a new team, and by the time his third season is here, or could be splitting work where he's the backup guy behind someone else they want to bring in. So for me, I think it's Dameon Pierce. I don't trust that well. But Brian Robinson, I don't trust him long term, but Dameon Pierce in 23. So, and then whose value do you want to buy right now?
Pacheco.
Yeah, this one's a tough one because I think they're all going to go for a pretty penny in Dynasty. They're all going to be relatively expensive, but Isaiah Pacheco probably is going to be the least expensive and has decent upside in 2023. So that's kind of where I went to. But again, I'm interested in Dameon Pierce. I might, test the water because I think people are kind of in that same boat of like kind of giving up on him or, whatever. But yeah, both of those guys, because I think Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker still going to be borderline untouchable and to try and trade for. And then James Cook, Brian Robinson, like we just talked about, both of those guys, I'm not like, you're still going to have to pay for them, and I'm not super psyched about it. So that I'd probably go Pacheco.
Did you feel the same way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I'll definitely buy Hall. I'll spend.
Yeah, I mean, if you got the draft capital, I'd take Breece Hall for sure. But it's going to cost you a couple.
Willing to give him a discount. Yeah. Pacheco's not being talked about enough, I think, this offseason, compared to like everyone wants to know about what's going on with Hall. Everyone's concerned about Walker. People love Cook as an upside. People think Dameon Pierce is still really, really good. Brian Robinson doesn't get a lot of talk either, but I'm not buying too many shares of Robinson. But Pacheco isn't being hyped up enough, and I think this could be the time to go out and get him. Especially if you tell an owner like, "Oh, he just had a surgery on his hand this offseason," I might get someone to say what, and then want to get off him pretty quickly. So,
or just wait for Jerick McKinnon to sign, and then knock on the door.
That's true. All right, let's go over to the second grouping of. Oh, I didn't have Rachaad White at all on my list. Oh, how did I miss him?
You.
So Rachaad White should have been on this list. Rachaad White should have been on this list. I apologize. That's my fault. Does it change if he's on this listing?
For sure.
It changes a little bit.
Is it a trust thing? Is it a not trust thing? Is it a value buy? Does he come in this equation at all here?
He might come into the equation as a value buy. That's the only one that I would kind of maybe put him in that conversation. But again, I don't know what the Bucs are going to be an interesting case study over the next 2 years on what they do, because they sold out to get a Super Bowl, kind of like the Rams did, and they got it. And then now what? So that's kind of, I think the Bucs are going to be a weird team for the next 2 years, but I would be interested in buying Rachaad White. But that's the only place I'd put him in that conversation.
Right. Did you feel the same way, or are you still sticking to Pacheco in terms of your value buy or trust?
I thought that you were talking about like on the second slide.
No. Rachaad White on this side for sure.
Oh, no.
Rachaad White, second slide.
He's top tier.
Top tier. Yeah.
Nah.
Kyle has him as his third behind Walker and Hall long term.
Really?
Yes.
Kyle, we might need to chat offline. That's an interesting take.
Yeah,
I like
he's definitely a good value right now. If I could still get him for a value right now, he is definitely a good value. I don't like the offense, but there's enough weapons there that they can't be that bad.
Baker will surprise you. Baker will surprise you.
Rachaad White was pretty good last year at times. If he's still sitting there, he's definitely the value pick. I apologize for not putting him on the list. So, but I don't know why I went wrong there, but it's okay. Rachaad White is one of these good elite 2022 running backs, so let's keep that in mind. Over to the next grouping here. We have Tyler Algier. Unfortunately, he would probably have been on the last list had a guy like B.J. Robinson did not get drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, but obviously he had a really good season last year for a sixth round pick, over 1,000 yards. Jerome Ford is someone who I liked a lot, who kind of slides into that RB2 behind Nick Chubb now in Cleveland. Kerryon Williams. he is likely to slot in as the number 2 right now at the moment for the Los Angeles Rams. He didn't really do too much last year, but I know he was a hot waiver wire pickup 1 week, I think, but for the most part, really inefficient rookie season. Pierre Strong definitely flashed and has that big playability to his game, but he's got a crowded running back core there in New England to deal with. Katarian Ingram, he has a good opportunity to be the RB2 behind James Conner, who is a injury-ridden running back over his career. Definitely was not a good rookie season for him. He averaged like a 2.2 yards a carry. Zamir White, again, he could end up seeing more work in 23. He was kind of not really used too much in 22. Josh Jacobs is still there, but, long term, he could still be an option. Isaiah Spiller, definitely a major flop. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be that backup guy to see the work in that Chargers offense. And again, he was someone who averaged 2.5 yards per carry in his rookie season. And then Jalen Warren, an undrafted guy, who went to Pittsburgh and made Mike Tomlin have to use 2 running backs last year pretty often, and did well at times as a nice pass catching kind of back. So of these people, who do you trust the most moving forward?
So this is crazy. I probably trust Jalen Warren the most moving forward. I just honestly, I think he showed enough to the Pittsburgh team that he's a capable complement, 1B to, kind of, like I said, complement to Najee Harris. Najee Harris came on strong towards the end of the season, was healthy. They obviously used a lot less Jalen Warren. But he still was getting snaps. He still was getting carries and targets. I don't think they're just going to completely phase him out. He was effective when he had the opportunity. And then again, a little bit of faith in Tyler Algier. I think Tyler Algier showed enough that he's, going to be the backup. He's going to be the number 2 guy. If Bijan Robinson gets hurt, knock on wood, he never does. Tyler Algier will slot right in and be usable. The rest of these guys, they could not be on a team next season. So, I don't, Jerome Ford, Kyron Williams, Pierre Strong, Keontae Ingram, all these names are just names. I wouldn't be investing in any of these players outside of Jalen Warren and Tyler Algier. And when I say investing, I mean low 3rd round picks. If I just need depth, I don't see a world where any of these guys break out to this next level. I know there was a lot of hype about Isaiah Spiller. I know there was some, hype on, Kyron Williams. If you don't show it right away to me in Dynasty, there's too many other picks. There's too many other players I can go after. I don't want to sit and wait on Isaiah Spiller that maybe he turns into something year 4. It's just
right.
Too rare of an opportunity that happens. So if you don't show me something in year 1 as a running back, I'm off. I'm out.
Coach Jibs, where are we standing with you?
I'll probably have to agree with Jalen Warren. Most of us play PPR league, so he could probably get three a few catches, maybe 6 carries, in his 9-touch range. Tyler Algier, of course, will be the backup, but I could see a 10-touch role for him too, being behind Bijan Robinson. So, you take your pick out of those 2. I just feel it's kind of weird though, because I feel Algier's kind of capped being with the behemoth in front of him, and you could say that about Warren too. But I'll just give it up to him. But those 2 are my most trustable options out of that list. Everyone, Keontae Ingram, like I said, is promise. Zamir White's promise, but I need production in this scenario.
That's fair. Yeah, Warren is obviously the most obvious answer. I really like Jerome Ford, and he didn't obviously show anything last year to make John be crazy about him last year. But again, he had 2 other running backs who we at one point thought were wow, they're RB1s when they get the starting job when someone gets hurt, and now he slides in behind Nick Chubb, who we've known he's missed times over his career. They need a pass catching back. Nick Chubb can do it, but Jerome Ford was really good at college, and he was someone I had as my RB4 in last year's draft. Some injury concerns slipped him down the draft board, but he lands in a situation where he's in a good situation. He's going to be the backup. He probably is going to see catches in the backfield, and he could be an RB1. He's a strong running back, and if Nick Chubb goes down, that's when he could be that RB1 that I like about him. So He's definitely someone I'm trusting right now moving forward. It's risky, obviously, but I have complete faith in the talent that he brings to this Cleveland Browns team. So the next question might not be it might be really, it also might not be as relevant, but if of these guys, who would you trust the least? If someone was like, I want to trade for one of these guys, who would you tell them, just don't worry, don't even attempt to trade for them?
Pierre
Strong.
Yeah, Pierre Strong. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about. Forget the name, because he's buried in a New England depth chart that throws running backs around like they're toilet paper. I mean, it's like, listen, I love Pierre Strong. I love New England. I'm a Patriots fan. I love it. I'm great, but for the 2 punt return touchdowns that he gets and the 1 or 2 big plays that he'll get next season, forget it. I'm good. I'm totally good. It's Ramondre Stevenson, and even that guy, I'm not investing in Dynasty because he could be gone next season. He could be gone next year too. So it's just, as long as Bill is there, don't overinvest in a New England running back. Don't do it. Listen, I've been watching the Patriots for 36 years. Just don't overinvest in a New England running back. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Yeah, it's the New England running back syndrome. The Patriots room historically has been a hard running back room to predict. And hell, if you can do it in Dynasty, if I can't do it to a year-to-year basis. But 2023 is going to be the Ramondre Stevenson show. But yeah, you just never know how Bill handles his running backs. Just spin the roulette wheel.
Yeah.
You're off. Yeah. You get the green. Bill takes all the chips.
He takes them all.
Left with nothing.
Bill could be, listen, Bill is crazy enough that he could be one of those guys that all of a sudden trades for Dalvin Cook. And it's like, we didn't see that. What the hell? Like, where's this coming from? It's like, I don't know. It's Bill Belichick. He does whatever. He doesn't care about running backs. It's crazy.
That won't happen.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, he's nuts. They'll do whatever. They don't care at running back. They'll do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most logical pick, obviously, just Pierre Strong, obviously. I mean, there's just so much he has to work through. Again, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he starts by week 4. It's just the way this Patriots offense works.
And then who's the other one? They had Kevin Harris, too, right? They drafted both, Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong.
And they had James Robinson there, too. So.
And James Robinson now. And Ramondre Stevenson.
Quickly, give me a quick value on one of these guys. Someone you buy low on or whatever right now.
I'd buy low. Yeah, I'd buy low on Jaylen Warren. I'd send an offer out, 3rd round pick, see if they'll pass, 2nd round pick on Jaylen Warren. But yeah, that's kind of it.
I'll do it for Ford. It was a day late in the dollar playing bees, guys.
I actually was doing a little bit of research on all these guys. Kerryon Williams is interesting because Cam Akers doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't have a lot of ton of targets in his career as an NFL player. He runs the ball on 1st, 2nd down a lot. And Williams was portrayed as a passing down back with Matthew Stafford, who's 35 years old and isn't going to move around in the pocket too much. That could be like a 4th round pickup that you could make, because I think he's still relatively available on a lot of teams that you could probably trade a 4th round pick and maybe get him on the team, and he could be a bit of a surprise. Just want to throw that out there. So
right that.
All right, over to the wide receivers now. These are the ones drafted in only the 1st round, obviously, because there were so many. Who do you trust moving forward out of this group here?
Jibs?
I'm going to go with John's boy, Chris Olave.
Nice. Yeah. That was a good surprise. I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people there. Like I could have been a sucker and say Garrett Wilson for like the next 2-3 years, but I just like Chris Olave's prospects. Like, there's, compared to Garrett Wilson, he has a less crowded receiver room. They got everyone and their mother over there. Not that it's going to matter, but his value should be sustainable in 2023. I could see him being better than like a wide receiver 2 that he was. A low end wide receiver 2 that he was, and then beyond, like, he could be the Saints wide receiver 1 next year. All I know, like Michael Thomas woes could continue. He could be actually a good for him too, because he could dictate coverage and like take some stuff off Olave, being that he was basically the primary threat last year. So I could see it benefiting him in both ways. And they have an upgraded quarterback. Derek Carr's better than Winston and all that crap they had. Like, I don't know if he might be better than like the old Drew Brees as well going into his like closing years. So like I like the Saints prospects this year. So I'm gonna go with John's boy, Chris Olave.
Oh, I never did my recap of all these players. Let me do that real quick. Thank you, Jibs. Obviously, Chris Olave was on the board. Jibs kind of mentioned him a lot already. Drake London, obviously, first quarter wide receiver off the board of last year's draft. Had some up and downs to his career. Definitely finished strong with Desmond Ridder at the end of the season. Garrett Wilson, we all know, is a true star, finishing with the Offensive Rookie of the Year player with the worst quarterback room ever assembled, and still somehow dominated. Jameson Williams missed most of the season, had one catch, though, the entire year, even though he played in 6 games. Wild. And obviously, he's suspended for the first 6 games of this year. Jahan Dotson was a pretty much of a touchdown machine with working with, again, not great quarterbacks over his time. And but we'll see what happens with him. And Treylon Burks, flashed his big play, but didn't really show enough last year in 2022 with all the mishap at quarterback with them. So those are the wide receivers we're talking about. Coach John, give us the guy you trust the most.
Oh man, so going back to what Jibs was saying, Chris Olave, I think, has the least crowded wide receiver room. I think he has his air yards and ADOT and all that was beautiful. Thing of beauty watching sadly Jameis Winston was throwing it 40 yards over his head, or Andy Dalton was throwing it 40 yards behind him, but he was getting broken deep downfield. There's a lot to like about Chris Olave as a superstar. But I think I would be remiss if I didn't say Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson is a already established superstar, won Rookie of the Year, and now he's getting arguably one of the best quarterbacks of the past 15 years. It's like, so I don't know. I just think that there's too much that makes sense for Garrett Wilson to just have this blow up 1,500 yard 12 touchdown season. And so I think that's why I have the most trust in going forward is Garrett Wilson, but there is easily a world where Chris Olave is, at the end of this year ahead of Garrett Wilson because of, and then there is a little bit of fear. Like, why is Aaron Rodgers asking the Jets to sign all these wide receivers? Why? If you see the talent that's out there, you got Garrett Wilson. What do you care about Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard for? So it is a little strange that that's happening. But I still just have to put my faith in Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about Rodgers bringing in who he wants. It is important to have people who understands his mechanics on the team overall. I mean, you come in with a whole new group, you don't know anybody, and you have a couple of your boys there with you. It definitely makes the party a little bit easier to hang out with. So
it makes the locker room more fun.
Exactly. So why not bring your friends and get them paid as well? But yeah, I think Chris Olave is a good one, but Garrett Wilson obviously showed us what he could do with the worst quarterback group in the world. And whether or not Rodgers sticks there past one season, the Jets are going to find themselves in a situation where they're probably going to look for another veteran to bring in and play much better than what we saw from their 2022 QBs that they had on their team here. So Garrett Wilson, for me, I trust him the most moving forward. Who do we trust the least moving forward of this group here? It might be easy too, but maybe not.
So I had Jameson Williams on here because he's starting off suspended, so that sucks. You're out 6 games automatically, no matter what. And Detroit is, their offense is good enough without him. He's a luxury piece to them. He's a luxury pick, and it's like, I don't know. Is Jameson Williams ever going to be a 10 target guy, or is he just our Deshaun Jackson, where we throw him the ball 3-4 times and maybe he hits on one of them and that type of, player. So that's what I fear with Jameson Williams. I like what Detroit's doing. Detroit's moving in the right direction. They're, we'll see what happens with Goff and Hendon Hooker and that whole quarterback situation, but their offense is good enough. Like, I think Jameson Williams they took and said, hey, maybe he develops into this alpha superstar, but I don't know if that's really his trajectory right now. Missing 6 games doesn't help. The nice thing is I was reading into the suspension a little more. He's still allowed at the facility. He just can't be there on game day. So the opposite, kind of different than Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley couldn't even go to the facility. So that, might help him out, but I still think it's going to be 6 games. You don't get them. And then probably 2 or 3 games for him to get up to speed. So now you're talking week 9, week 10. and then you can finally feel comfortable putting him in your lineup. And at that point, you know, how many targets is he getting? 6 or is he getting 14? You know, that's it. I think it's probably closer to 6.
All right, Jibs, how do you feel?
It's gonna pick on Jameson Williams as well. Basically, I just like the suspension doesn't help, and like maybe I'm like having a change of philosophy with these big play wide receivers. I think I kind of a steady Eddie guy, a guy like who gets more volume, who would be expected to have more volume. So Amon-Ra is in the league of his own as a wide receiver on that team, and I don't know. Who knows? By the time they get up to speed, maybe like the rookie. I mean, Laporta's up and running there too. So I'm not saying like he won't be the number 2 option when he comes back, but like I don't know, Chief. I'm just not really optimistic on his profile. But I'll take a guy like Doxson though, baby.
Dotson.
He's like a little bit more promising in my eyes. Not just kidding.
Yeah, I think the easy answer would be say Jameson Williams. There's just so much against him already. But I'm going to go based off a little bit off the talent of, you know, who I think is in terms of least talented, who is really talented still, is Treylon Burks in this situation here. And yes, he's the wide receiver 1 for this Titans team here, who doesn't like to throw the ball a ton. And from what I was watching of him last year, you know, there are some concerns about him being able to handle, you know, number 1 corners on the offense here. He has asthma, if I'm not mistaken. There was something last year about him not being able to have his conditioning was terrible. I think it had to do with asthma or something like that.
Yes.
And yes, it did. Yes. So to me, you know, I don't know if he's going to be a player that ends up seeing, you know, true wide receiver 1 value in his career. Like I said, the rest of them, I could see it. And Jameson Williams is again, it's tough to see it, but their talent could still show wide receiver 1. I don't know if Treylon Burks gets the wide receiver 1 in his career. So in terms of that, I'm going to go based on trusting him the least in terms of becoming a wide receiver 1. But again, I love all these guys still. But yeah, I'm going to go with that. And then quickly rank them real quick. Dynasty, obviously, rank them up real quick.
I would say Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, both number 1. Take your pick who you like better. But 1, 2, Wilson, Olave. Then Drake London. Then for me is probably Treylon Burks. And then Jahan Dotson, Jameson Williams. But that's
your ship.
That's on. I'm on the Treylon Burks upside train still. I still think there's potential.
I'll switch Williams and I'll still have Doxson last, even though like they're in the same boat. I just think like Terry McLaurin kind of like caps Doxson's upside to a degree. Like, but
I respect it.
The same thing, the same situation for both of them. But
yeah,
better quarterback, better team.
Yeah, let's see. It's Kyle said Wilson, Olave, London, pretty big tiers after that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, Wilson, Olave, London. I probably have Dotson 4th, and then Williams, and then Burks for me. So
yeah, London, Wilson, Olave are gonna be NFL players for 8 years. So I mean, you get them on your dynasty roster now, like you're good. Like you know, you're fine.
Absolutely.
But Coach Steve, I did hear like on like a serious like XM football show that like at a Titans camp that Treylon Burks said that he's feeling better and that he can breathe and going towards the season. So like
breathing is helpful.
I can't even breathe right now to the allergy out there right now. Shit.
Yeah, so hopefully that good
Tennessee there in Tennessee right now.
Yeah, what's the pollen count in Tennessee right now? I need to know.
We got to look that up now. More statistics.
Yeah.
All right. Over to the next grouping of wide receivers here. These are the guys that were drafted in the first round, but guys who were most relevant to last season or taken high at least. Christian Watson obviously had an amazing second half of the 2022 season. He doesn't have Rodgers now. He has Jordan Love, but is the wide receiver 1 for this team. Wanda Robinson had one game where he looked amazing and then got hurt once again, as most Giants players do. John Mechie, unfortunately, had to deal with some cancer, and he did not make this season this past year. But he looked like he's coming back strong and pretty good right now.
All reports are good. Everything
reports are good.
Yep, he's cancer-free and looking healthy, so I'm psyched. I'm psyched about John Mechie.
Yes, Traquan Thornton from the New England Patriots, second-round pick. A little bit of a question mark at the time, but again, is there really anyone who is a true wide receiver one on that team. So there's an opening there still. George Pickens, even though I said Pickums,
I like Pickums
big
better.
playability, was coming off a major injury, didn't perform pretty well, but didn't do what we thought maybe with the talent that he showed us in college. But he comes in as the wide receiver 2 for the Steelers. Alec Pierce now comes in as the wide receiver 2 for the Colts after Paris Campbell goes. But now they have Anthony Richardson, who, we know about him and how his throwing ability can be. Sky Moore, Sky Moore, a lot of people liked him last year because he landed in the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, they went and drafted another wide receiver, and it could be a situation where he just never performed. So we won. And Romeo Doubs kind of got on early for the Packers, but kind of faded as the season went on. He also dealt with some injuries. So who is the most trusted going forward with this group, guys?
To me, the most trusted is George Pickens. He is clearly established as a primary target in that offense. I think his talent is crazy. His hands, his catch radius, it's awesome. His route running's good. He's a bully out there in the field. So I think for trust factor, it's probably George Pickens. If you wanted to swing for the fence and go upside, I won't argue if you pick Christian Watson. I just don't, it's tough buying into Jordan Love right now. I need to see a little bit of like training camp and practice and all that. And, but George Pickens is who I trust the most moving forward. He's relatively safe. I think he has big playability. He showed it, with his, some of that 50-50 balls. So if Pickett can take a step forward, then Pickens will be better. It's a tongue twister.
Jibs, what do we got?
I agree, but I'll give some love for Christian Watson, and I know like they have no longer Aaron Rodgers ain't there no more, and it's going to be the Jordan Love show. But like even during that Week 12 game with the Eagles when he came in as a backup, there was something going there between him and Watson, and like I think Watson year 2 will be good from the start instead of having like that late season surge that he did. So like I'm all for it. I'm not really scared with a new quarterback. And if you look Watson compared to the rest of the list, they're not even cracking like the number 2 like receiver on their team. So like, I think Watson's number 1. So I'll go up with him. Love Pickens though. I just said Pickens. Kenny Pickett was my guy up there before. So like I think he's in him for a good season as well.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Christian Watson still. I'm not afraid of the Jordan Love situation. I think Love is better than Kenny Pickett personally. So outside of that note, I mean, I have to go with Christian Watson at this point. Again, he's going to be their wide receiver 1 on this team. There's not many people he has to compete with. Dobbs is there. Yes, Dobbs is solid, but he was a 5th-round pick himself. They spent some pick on Jordan Reed, but again, he's a rookie year coming into this season. Jalen Reed. I'm sorry, not Jordan Reed. Jalen Reed. So he's going to be a rookie this year. He's going to have to take time to get to the next level. And Christian Watson, he was coming from North Dakota State, right? That's where he came from. Yeah. So he had some transition to do to get to the NFL level. Give him a whole offseason workout with this team here. He's going to take the next step in his development overall. So I do trust him the most. I've been drafting him in some of my startups this offseason pretty well, relatively high. So
yeah.
All right. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say, because we got to remember, too, Christian Watson started the season injured. So that was also why he kind of came on slow.
Right.
And we all know Aaron Rodgers
hates rookies.
He hates rookies. He hates rookies, and he hates rookies that miss training camp. He hates it. So it makes sense that he started the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks pretty slow.
Exactly. All right. So who do we trust of this group the least? Might be a pretty easy question here.
I have 2. I don't trust either one of them, and it's Sky Moore and Romeo Doubs. I don't really trust either one. I just think that Sky Moore is a piece to a much larger puzzle. He'll never be a focal point in that offense. He just won't be. I don't think he'll ever establish himself as some, primary weapon. I think it's probably going to be, Travis Kelce, and then a hodgepodge of whoever else they find open and whoever else they scheme open and stuff like that. I don't think Sky Moore will ever be, like I said, like a very focal, consistent player. And then Romeo Doubs, same thing. We just watched Reed get drafted. I think he's kind of eyeing that wide receiver 2 role. So then Romeo Doubs slides to the 3. I don't love Jordan Love as it is. And so I'm getting the 3rd or possibly 4th target from Jordan Love. It's like, I don't really, not super interested in that either.
Okay. Coach Jibs.
No, I'm not really a fan of any Patriots, so it's Taekwon. Juju there. I'm not like, I'm kind of iffy on like Wan'Dale Robinson. I'll throw some shade on him too because they have Sterling Shepard. They got Campbell as well in the offseason. So there's like, and don't forget they have a bunch of other wide receivers that are kind of iffy too on the roster. So like those 3 specifically are like slot dominant wide receivers who like that's where they get their bread and butter at. So I don't see him having like a good year in 2023, but 2024 might have him on Coach Jib's team. So other than that, like I guess those are my 2 gripes.
Yeah, like you guys came up with some pretty good ones. Yeah, I'm pretty much, for me it's Sky Moore and Thornton for me personally. I think Sky Moore is never going to be a player where he's going to be a true 100-yard target kind of player. He'll be used as a gadget player, I think, in this kind of Kansas City offense where he's not going to see the target share to really compete for wide receiver 2 value. And Thornton, I don't trust Mac Jones at all, and I just can't see them getting this offense going with Thornton. I mean, I think he's going to be it was a reach of a pick. They haven't been good at picking up wide receivers over the Patriots' career. They're better off trading for them. So hopefully Juju can do better. But Thornton, yeah, there's no trust there. So. What of this group, who do you want to buy in terms of value? There's someone low on this group that you could get for a value right now.
Probably either Christian Watson or John Mechie. If I was to take a stab at any one of these guys, I think George Pickens is still a little overvalued in dynasty circles because he is like a highlight reel kind of guy. And so I think I'd rather, if it's going to cost me a late first for Pickens or Watson, I guess I'd rather Watson. So yeah, that's who I'd go for. And then take a shot at John Mechie. You never know.
Chips. I'll be a sucker and buy high for Pickens. But yeah, like I said, I would I'll buy into Robinson midseason if he doesn't break out for the next year. And John makes a good point about Mechie. No one knows, it's the unknown. Like, yeah, he's a young player. He's like 22 years old, and he has a nice young quarterback to grow up and groom with. So that's what I'll take my chances. I was hot on Alec Pierce, but them getting Josh Downs and everyone's hyping him up, so it kind of put a little steam on.
Don't listen to Reggie Wayne.
Don't listen to Reggie Wayne. The whole
Reggie Wayne is fucking.
Don't listen to Reggie Wayne.
Okay. Well,
cool.
I guess I'll make my case for Pierce then too. Like, he's going to be the number 2 option, and you can say similar things with like John Mechie. He's going to be going up with Richardson, so we'll get the growing bumps.
Right. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's probably Mechie. I mean, I feel like you get him relatively cheap. Like, I got him for a player that was drafted in the 4th round of this year's draft. So I feel like you can get him relatively cheap and see, hopefully he can kind of bounce back. And he has a good quarterback now. And again, a pathway to being a wide receiver 1 for a team. So might as well buy into that now before he ends up showing us up this season. So. Yeah. All right. Finally, the tight end grouping here of Trey McBride, the first tight end taken off the board in the 2022 draft here. Again, he did some things near the end of last season once Zach Ertz went down, but we don't know his status, if he's going to be ready for the start of the 23 season. Greg Dulcich came in really hot for the Denver Broncos, but then faded down the stretch. And he got a lot of competition, but hopefully with Sean Payton, things could turn up again for him. Cade Otton. He should be the tight end 1 for the team. He started off pretty good and then kind of faded down the road in terms of production. Jake Ferguson, we all know he is coming in as the tight end 1 for this team for now. We'll see how that changes up, but he looks like he is to be the tight end 1. Chig from the Titans here, just a big playability that he showed us in the second half of the Titans season here. Again, without many weapons on this offense, he has an opportunity here to kind of potentially shine. Jelani Woods didn't really do much, but again, he was a big physical freak of nature for a tight end. And so, developing, he could maybe develop into something into year 2 here. Daniel Bellinger, he's the backup for, Darren Waller now, but he looked pretty good at times last year, and we know Darren Waller's history with injuries. And Isaiah Likely, he's going to be backing up, obviously, Mark Andrews, but he flashed a couple times here and there, but there is plenty of competition compared to last year. But Likely is another player who is just physically gifted and athletic as can be. So who do you trust moving forward?
Tight ends are hard to trust.
Yeah. Jibs, I'll let you start off with who you trust the most out of this list.
Going forward, I would say Greg Dulcich. I think his situation could improve. Russell Wilson's offensive capabilities can improve. I think next year you could see Sutton or Jerry Jeudy be out of there, and it'll just be him and Marvin Mims that they contend with. So I think he has room for improvement. We did see flashes. More consistent flashes than like some of these guys on the list. So I'll definitely hitch my ride to Greg Dulcich for the most trustable tight end on this list.
I want to say Greg Dulcich as well, because he proved it, showed it to us over a consistent period of time, and Sean Payton coming in should help. I'm going to say Chigakonkwo. I think that that's who I have the most trust in going forward, because I think that depth chart at wide receiver is putrid. I think it is so bad. It is so bad that Chig could – you could pencil Chig in for 80 targets, no problem. It's like that's how bad that offense, that the weapons there are. It's Treylon Burks and then no one. So, I like Greg Dulcich. It feels like he's safer, but if we're week 6 in and Chig's a top 10 guy, I wouldn't be shocked. So I'm going to make the early bet on Chigakonkwo. That I think he's who I trust the most.
I like it. I'm probably going to go back to Greg Dulcich as well in my own self here. He showed us probably for the most part the most out of the gate. And if they can get this offensive scheme going where they use him a lot, and again, there's a lot of Jerry Jeudy getting traded, a lot of Cortland Sutton getting traded. And that could still happen this offseason still. It's not over. So Greg Dulcich, I think, has an opportunity to be successful still. And I think, we saw Sean Payton use tight ends over his career in New Orleans. So I do like Greg Dulcich as the guy I can trust the most of these tight end crew. Who do you trust the least? Who's one of these guys I don't want nothing a part of?
Anyone but
Daniel Bellinger. I think Daniel Bellinger.
You want this player for free. Would you take him or
Jelani Woods? Maybe I'd be like, I feel like that might be a bit of a roster clog. I think Jelani Woods
sure would just be not someone I want.
All right, I think he's just going to clog your roster.
I have Jelani Woods down. He's basically not even going to be like the third or maybe the fourth option on a run first team going forward. So I'm not liking that. He's probably going to be blocking and getting a tight end bubble screen for a touchdown. So I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, agreed.
Crowded tight end in the room.
All right, so finally, at what value would you want to buy one of these guys right now?
Chig me up, baby.
Yeah.
Chig me up.
Oh, yeah. I would say Chig or Isaiah Likely would be the two that I would try and acquire for Dynasty.
Chig is nice for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Daniel Bellinger still, honestly. I feel like his value just tanked in the ground with the signing of Darren Waller.
Yeah, it did.
And I'm not trusting Darren Waller to play 17-game season again. So he would be someone in terms of value that you get for basically nothing. Someone just dropped one of my leagues.
I was going to say, if you wait long enough, Daniel Bellinger is going to get dropped. Guarantee it. If you wait long enough, he'll get dropped. There'll be enough hype about these rookies, some undrafted rookie for some crazy team that's going to get hyped, and people will drop Daniel Bellinger to add this guy who, you see it every year. It happens every year. And then, so just wait. That's the other thing too. Sometimes these late dynasty people don't even bother throwing a 4th round pick. Just wait until training camp comes and they'll probably get cut.
Agreed. I like that. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our 2022 fantasy recap of these guys from last year, who we like, who we don't like moving forward, and some great values. Coach John, anything you want to mention before we head out tonight?
No, I thank you guys. This was a great episode. I think year 2 players, it's important that we talk about them because it's pivotal in Dynasty, because you can still get out of a guy early enough where there's some value, and you can buy in on guys low enough that you can get a huge return. So I think year 2 players is always an interesting case to look at. So I appreciate this. It was a great show.
Awesome. Coach Jibbs.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, y'all. Yes. So again, we do appreciate y'all for jumping in, tuning in. Kyle, I know you're out there in the audience. We appreciate that as always, my friend, and those who listen to the podcast afterwards as well, not the live show. We will not be on next week. Next Monday's Memorial Day, and I figured I'd get this crew off so we could all enjoy it with whoever we enjoy our Memorial Days with. So drinking, whatever we might do, family, friends, whatever it may be. So we will not be back, but then we'll be back the following, which I think is June 5th, June 6th. We will be getting into redraft season, guys. We'll be starting to talk about players coming back from last year, busts, sleepers, all this fun stuff that we got to start talking about and get you guys ready for your 2023 drafts and 2023 seasons. So we'll be back. Of course, you can always follow us over on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. You can hit us over on our YouTube channel and subscribe to the Fantasy Coaches. Hit us with that YouTube subscription. That would be great. Give us a 5-star review on any podcast where you listen to these podcasts at, wherever you can do to help us out. We appreciate it, guys. So as always, thanks for tuning in. Tune in until next time, guys, and have a